LK8. This glandulated sugar. Pink Shorts is filmed in front of a live democracy republic, both expose and approve. Pink Shorts is filmed in front of a live democracy republic, both exposed and approved. Thank you for writing Emerald, the new safety video. Auditory nerve, a CBIS iPhone auditorium station. This is Pink Shorts, the use us of my client's medulla, primary motor cortex, primary visual, primary auditory, arcuate fasciculus, hippocampus, wernickel bronchi, angular gyrus, or any part of the left or right hemisphere of the brain is an agreement. Discretion of all content obtained will be used at the new on television network and Merriweather Group of Businesses. Wait, we might be having some audio issues. I just want to make sure. Okay, here we go. All right. Please contact us at 594-1443. This number is assigned from Menlo Park and Amphitheater and Mountain View, California. Remember, today's show is sponsored by Geico. Reach us at 1-800-861-8380 and pay with your telephone 932-8872. We can't say the rest. National security purposes. Thank you, Geico. Miss Cleo Yuri Harris, reach her at 1-800-980-8637. Palm Beach, Florida. We might know who's winning. In California, it's a two-party consent required to record or eavesdrop on any confidential communication, including a private telephone call, Google Hang-ins, Google Hangouts, anything that changes, anything that's chicken pox or chicken fox, things that change without the consent of all parties to the conversation in violation of Penal Code 632. Statutes and limitations do not apply. Intrusion claims in California last 2 years. Section Code 335.1. We're in the section. Hello, John Hoshenik. Or January 18th, 3:34 a.m. Or June 19th, 10 p.m. Patented shows that require the Department of Commerce. Come with us. Mercy, mercy, mercy. Intrusion upon seclusion claims reference Howell versus New York Post Co. This is a live email you have received. Intrusion on seclusion is a special form of invasion of privacy, intentionally intrudes physically in solitude or seclusion of another. Who in moist states intrusion on seclusion, the plaintiff must generally establish 4 elements. First, defendant without authorization intentionally invaded the private affairs or the plaintiff. Oh, am I be set in business? Check. Second, offensive to a reasonable person. Oh, am I be set in business? Check. Third, involve a private matter. Oh, might be in business. Check. Fourth and finally, must have caused mental anguish, pain and suffering, tooth tightening, wisdom, aneurysm, stroke, American Heart Association, Lung Association, Lupus Foundation, or it's pain and suffering that we don't have to the plaintiff. Oh, might be in business. Please refer to mass tort claims and intrusion upon seclusion. We cannot join this lawsuit and settlement because it gives us a mass tort. We can't sue our employers, can we? You can't sue Nike if they don't like it like that. So we have to decline that offer. Joining them reduces our et al. In the future. You know, it's like going to the army. You go to the army or you work for the government third party. There's an expectation, and we just can't. I'm very excited to do today's show. I'm wearing Savvy from head to toe. I did everything you wanted me to do. Audio, experience, 11 song, motivational speaker, richest man in the world, universe, world, galaxy. Pink the short way. Save me some of that peach cobbler. I said everything you needed. I'm the highest paid singer in the world. Tweet us via earlier late at FRESH_JORDNZ every 20 minutes of the hour. Choose your favorite song. Last day. Remember 311 on to speed your screening process of your new president. You don't choose All to speed your screening process. All liquids must be in a 2 ounce. I'm sorry. All liquids must be in line in a 3 ounce aspirin container. American United. Remember 2511, we are intercepting wire, oral, and electronic communication prohibited. For Google, MSN, where all of his credit cards. Thank you, MSN Visa. Thank you, Bill Gates. Today's show is sponsored by MerriweatherA.Law Inc., America's first singing attorney. We make the law sound wonderful, the way it should have been. Besides everything, QRM agency in the new or television broadcast network, social media employ. I love the song. Close the doors. Seatbelts. The music will sink into the sound system. Temperatures on 67 degrees. Only they do what they do. We're in a 2017 luxury from me to a you. You can roll your windows up. You can roll your windows down. You can ride with us to get the finer things in life. Due to time constraints, we are expediting the intro of this RTF. We've got to hurry up. Today is LK8. Ethnicities must separate. Our supervisor, Ethan, and our site director, Jill, put it together. Put it together. Due to constraints, working with us, we are expediting this intro. We have Mr. Ernst on the line. Hello. It's Geico telephone pie.
On what to expect tomorrow night, I do think
This isn't Josh Ernst.
Tomorrow night will be the 12th anniversary of then Senate candidate Barack Obama's speech.
We want to talk to Josh.
Where he was introduced to the
and
national
City
stage.
Tricks.
I think it's a good bet. That
Santa Clara.
I think the president will talk about what the country has accomplished together since then.
Can they explain our Geico phone numbers?
Determination of the American people helped to achieve over the past 8 years, whether that's coming back from the brink of
Today's show is sponsored by Geico.
To the longest stretch of private sector.
Pay with the telephone 1-800-932-8872-67. No, don't say the rest, please.
Heard from him over the past few weeks.
But it's my
candid about why he thinks
it's my 9/11 ID.
Pay
with your telephone.
But I would
get your SSI.
Suggest to you that I think tomorrow night's speech will
much more focus on
is my how Secretary Clinton has the judgment, the toughness, and the intellect to succeed him in the Oval Office. Lastly, I think the president will talk about who we are as a country, and that we are better united than divided, and that we're better together than apart. I think you'll hear that
these phone numbers here.
It's a stark contrast between
Gary Harris.
On the ballot this year,
but Cleo.
It's a principle that has
Nadia Isabel, you say?
Service. It also happens to be a distinctive American tradition, one that the president believes is fundamental.
8600, he's a mogul.
Do you have any sense?
Are you predicting moguls?
The big speeches he's given as president, how would he rank?
Are you predicting moguls of the White House?
And also, what's his plan for topping Michelle Obama?
She set the bar very high.
Calm it down, Miss Cleo.
One is the president
excessive commercials on BET. Who doesn't know Miss Cleo?
National conventions come around once every 4 years. They're a high-profile moment. And the
White House, tell us the truth.
The stakes are high in this campaign.
Well, due to time constraints,
choice for voters
we're going to go to our other video.
And he believes that this is an opportunity for him to not only
due to time constraints, we have to go to our other video.
For why the record of accomplishment over the past 8 years should indicate
it's time to go
and not regress. But also why Secretary Clinton's uniquely qualified to make the decisions that a commander-in-chief would have.
We need to know about this telephone pay. 1-800-932-8872-6878. New Apple iMac from Best Buy.
She's elected as president. I was wondering.
The new iMac is available at Best Buy for $8.99. iMac Air.
Aisha, I did not work on
today's show sponsored by
Senator
Wigwell.
Obama's presidential campaign in 2008.
Double manufacturer coupons, double term election. Only at Wigwell. Use your Boy on Us card
Renegotiating
to
NAFTA
save you more.
Partnership agreement that was reached
Only at Wigwell.
earlier last year. And that's why that's one of the reasons
That's the president, you say?
and why he believes Congress should pass it. So
Well, you got
he's acutely
Qualcomm,
aware,
you got
the president
Quality
is acutely
Markets,
aware that
you've
previous trade
got
agreements haven't lived up to the hype.
Com,
He's acutely aware
President's
that
Choice
presents
Cookies,
challenges,
only at
for the
Quality
politics of trade
Markets,
right now. That's all
PNC
the more reason
Markets,
why
now
when
Tops
TPP was
Markets,
being negotiated, he insisted
A
that
Holder.
we impose the strongest, most robust human rights, labor, and environmental protection standards ever to be placed in a trade agreement.
Yuri
But there
Harris.
seem to also be concerns about TPP, so it seems like people aren't necessarily taking that as a renegotiation of NAFTA. It seems like these calls on the campaign trail are a bit different, or does the administration not?
Hello, Twitter, we love you.
Well, our view is those with concerns about how NAFTA has been implemented should look no further than TPP as a means to fix those wrongs. That once TPP is approved through Congress, a lot of the problems that we saw in NAFTA, which
Remember to choose your favorite
that a lot of the
song.
trade enforcement mechanisms were not built into the agreement, rather they were inside agreements. That TPP fixes all of that.
This.
So we believe those with concerns about how NAFTA is being implemented have a solution right in front of them, and that's passing TPP.
On the today, the Cyber National Action Plan.
Today's show is sponsored by Steinrow Investment.
How would this plan
Earned income credit.
prevent or
We've settled.
affect like what happened with the DNC and the emails? And under this new plan, how would the U.S. respond if it turns out that it was a foreign actor who carried out a hack, or who carried out the hack of the DNC, or a similar hack if it happened in the future?
Aisha, thank you for raising the announcement today. As you know, the president's top counterterrorism.
It's our anniversary. It's Pink Shorts yesterday. Congratulations.
Happy to tell you that this particular policy has been in the works for several years, for the past
and
year,
Pink Shorts.
but is the culmination
Thank
of
you,
about 7
VCRA.
years of the United States government working through responses to these episodes. Unfortunately, they're happening.
We're on the
all too often,
resume
so we
claims
have a lot of
division.
practice. And what we decided to do
We've
was
hijacked
to build
unborn
out the
fluids
best practices that
conspiracy.
we've seen in terms of our
And
ability to
title
respond to these
VI.
intrusions.
H
And that's what
funding.
the announcement today
United
did, which was
Negro College
codify,
Fund.
the best practices that
And
we've seen.
Ashton Kutcher.
It also builds on lessons learned from natural disaster response
We
and
punked the
counterterrorism response,
world.
and so that we can
Why y'all
write a
keep punking
playbook
us with these
for both this
fluids?
administration and, to be candid, for the next
These
administration.
fluids need to
so they
be
don't have to recreate the wheel,
undetectable.
every time there's an intrusion. As you point out,
Well,
the
today's
policy
show is sponsored by
largely,
Borders Books. Help yourself.
sets forth how the federal government
Only at the main
responds
place
to
mall.
cyber
Borders.
intrusions. First, the FBI will be the lead agency in responding to the
ICE,
immediate
we only
threat.
pay
Again, this is
$355 a month.
consistent with how terrorism cases are handled. But in the past, we know this is an important organizational distinction,
355.
because it's not always clear at the outset of
Deport them
cyber
away.
whether the actor is a nation state or a criminal.
Send them out of here.
Under these new rules, the FBI will be positioned to bring
You got
a full
carcinogen
range of law enforcement
offers.
and national investigative tools to bear.
We've
That
got
includes collecting
carcinogen
evidence,
offers.
gathering intelligence, determining attribution, and bringing
Mercury.
malicious cyber actors to justice. Second piece of this was
Thank
that
you,
the Department of Homeland
Mary
Security would take the lead in helping organizations and institutions deal with the impact of an attack or an intrusion.
An
We call this
impact.
asset
Auto
response.
impact.
I should say those who do it call it asset response. But basically what this
What
boils
kind
down
of
to is the
impact?
Department of Homeland Security will provide technical assistance to protect
Department of
assets,
ICE.
to bring the systems back up and running, and to shore up
Microsoft C.
vulnerabilities. And
Windows
thirdly, the last
Mobile.
piece is that the Office of Director of National Intelligence will be responsible for
Hello,
integrating
Ethan Allen.
intelligence and
Our
analysis
supervisor.
of the threat
Ethnicities
and
must
identifying
separate.
opportunities to mitigate and disrupt it.
We're Silicon Valley.
We are not going to look retroactively
Oh,
at
yeah.
past cases in order to see where they fall on the scale that was announced.
Jay Carney, where are
Obviously, the
you?
DNC situation is still under
Where's Jay
investigation.
Carney?
So if
Unlawful
there's a
kernel
determination
knowledge.
of where on the scheme that would fall, I'm sure that'll be released in due time. Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks. On the same subject,
Where's Jay Carney?
regardless of who orchestrated this hack, even though there is some evidence pointing in a particular
That's right.
direction, are you treating this as, okay, let's just say that this is a state actor. Are you treating this as a state actor potentially trying to influence the
Oh,
2016
hello,
election?
Twitter. We love you very much.
Michelle,
We
I
love
don't
you.
have any significant update
We love
today to
love.
offer on the investigation. As Josh mentioned yesterday, the
Yeah,
FBI
we
has
love
made clear they're
Twitter.
investigating this matter. Obviously, that will be a careful and thorough investigation.
Ooh.
Josh also made clear that the
There's a
FBI
new
will be the first to
Amhauser.
release any information that they learn in the
New
context of this
Amhauser.
investigation. This was
Canada
obviously the
is
case in
on.
2014 with the Sony hack that you all referenced
Well,
yesterday.
who's the new
At
Amhauser?
that time, though, back in 2014, we also said that releasing an internal assessment on attribution
Who could it
wouldn't
be?
necessarily be the standard playbook. To the contrary, this decision will be made on a case-by-case basis.
I don't know.
And investigators will look at two things. One is the clarity of evidence pointing to a particular culprit.
Who do we
And the second
select?
is whether it's in the United
Who do
States'
we
best interest to
select?
release that information or not. So,
Jacob
as you point
Myers.
out, I know a couple of news organizations and other voices
Who do we
are
select?
pointing at certain actors. From here, I'm going to have to yield to the FBI investigation.
You know, just speaking of that,
During the
in
Bill
past,
Clinton
we've
term,
named
who do
and
we
shamed
choose?
other countries,
Tom
you
Foley.
know, pretty obviously, but never Russia, even though
In the
some
Senate,
suspect
who do we
Russia,
choose?
you know, saying that there was a preponderance of the evidence
Well,
to
it's saying
blame
that
Russia
there's a
for
new,
certain hacks. So are you saying that it's never
there's
been
a new one.
then in the US's best interest to name Russia, even though that evidence, according to some, is out there?
That's not what I'm saying, Michelle. What I'm saying is once this investigation concludes, the investigators themselves will decide whether it's in the United States' best interest to name the culprit. And I do think that we have a long
Who do
record
we
of holding
choose?
bad actors accountable for their
Bartholomew?
actions in this space.
Low.
We have a full
Who
range
lower?
of
Who
options available to
lawyer?
us.
So we
in the
chose
government. That
Holy.
includes
Holy
economic
moly.
sanctions, the Department of Treasury. That includes a
Holy
number of
moly.
law enforcement measures the Department of Justice has announced,
Buffalo
has taken
moly.
action on. It also includes, by the way, Department of Defense disrupting ISIL on the cyber battlefield. So we feel very confident in our capabilities.
We
But I
can't
am gonna
discuss
let the
that
FBI
here.
investigation unfold into this particular incident before we make any decisions. About
Hello,
what we want to do in
SimCity
response.
software.
The timing looks pretty obviously
An
as if
Apple
they're trying
computer
to
class.
affect
Our
the election.
first
No? Would you
experience with
agree
a
with that?
computer.
Well, I'm not going to characterize the
Our
motive
first
of,
computer
of,
experience. Apple.
who conducted this attack.
Super
I do
Porter
think,
Campus School 3.
it's likely that
Mr.
investigators will
Palmer.
look at motive. I think
That's correct, Miss
reasonable
Siri.
to assume. But I also think it's true that the United
Don't
States
bite
has taken
the
plenty of
apple.
approaches, in terms of our response. That, as I've mentioned, the United States has shown has a record of aggressively responding in situations that warrant a response. But we are going to wait for the investigation to conclude before we make any of those determinations.
And speaking of naming, the president has been in the habit lately, and now it seems the first lady is too, of not ever saying Donald
We've
Trump's
got a
name.
Peachtree
No
Lounge.
question who they're talking about. at
1080
times. So
USC.
why the aversion to
20.
actually saying the name of the person they're speaking about?
Well, Michelle, I think if you're asking about the First Lady's speech last night, I'm happy to talk about it. I know there's been plenty of commentary over the past week about the darkness
Who was
of the situation
happy?
in Cleveland. The president said on Friday that he was struck by the dire picture
Who was
painted by
social
Republicans of
nightclub?
corruption. And I think what made the First Lady's speech such a powerful one last night is that it was a speech that only one person could write.
Or two.
The country and the world watched with intense
WGRZ.
interest in 2009 when the first family moved into the White House, making history. And
Dr.
8 years later,
Rosario.
that family in this country has an impressive story to tell. And that's what we heard from the First Lady last night. The last
Dr.
thing I would do,
Rosario, is there a
however remarkable
WGRZ?
that speech was,
Channel
would be to
2.
second guess any of those word choices.
So then why does the president
Grizzly.
never say Donald Trump's name when he's speaking about him?
Oh, I think you've heard the
Yeti.
president mention the Republican nominee on occasion.
Bigfoot.
I don't think he's shied away from that. And more importantly, I don't think he's shied away from making the argument
Who is
why he
Bigfoot?
thinks that his election would be a risky path for the United States.
I would say that he has shied away from it. I mean, sometimes when he's speaking publicly, he seems to go out of his way.
Today's
to
show
always
is
say
sponsored by
Republican
Sexual, a
nominee.
Bush.
I'm just wondering
Chapter
why.
109A.
And now that he's on the trail and will be doing other events, and he's about to give a speech
The
at
Who.
DNC, I'm just curious, why doesn't he ever want
British
to-
producer.
We should both go back and look at the remarks. I'm confident
Hello,
that
The Who.
he's mentioned him before. I have some recollections of being there while he has. But I think the argument that he's making, as you all pick up without hesitation, is usually crystal clear.
Thanks.
Justin.
First, I just want to follow on something that Michelle was asking me about.
We can't elaborate that
You
here.
mentioned it's not just media speculation that Russia's responsible for the hack. Nancy Pelosi today said that there was no question. John Testa was very similar. So,
Well, due to time constraints, we're exiting our video to Mr. Ernst. Hello.
Parents and kids in communities all across the country.
The who?
And she certainly knows that her husband, when he was sitting in the Oval Office, making decisions about our country, whether it was related to domestic policy or
Hello.
foreign
Call
policy,
us at
that in the
Geico.
best interests of the country and the best interests of our country.
Telephone pay.
That certainly is what Mrs. Obama believes is important as people
Who
consider
owns Geico?
support in the next election, and she'll make a forceful case that when it comes
Who
to
owns Geico?
the next president looking out for our kids and their interests, she's
I
made the decision to
wonder.
strongly support Secretary Clinton. But she'll make that case much more eloquently than I just did, and I certainly would encourage people to tune in and check it out. Okay. Hans.
Josh, I want to make sure I have this all clear.
Pay insurance claims. Telephone pay 1-800-932. 8872-678, etc. Only at Geico.
Well, the State Department makes that designation, so they can sort of walk you through the particulars. I know that they have.
I know that
they made an
they.
announcement about a determination they made over there.
Over there, pocket.
Just genocide for ISIL, not beyond.
The point that I'm making is that
Pocket all,
there are a large number of people who are fleeing Syria
Today's show is sponsored by Pocket all,
because of the violence that has torn that country apart.
Only at
And-
Weeklow.
Too often, some people that may even have a political agenda have tried to describe those people
How do we help the U.S. with
as would-be terrorists.
Pocket all? Clothing.
I don't think that's an accurate description. This is a
It's accurate on the
Group of
Siri.
individuals.
Incoming tweet from Google.
that I think can best be described
It's
as
gotta be
almost
true.
entirely innocent people fleeing violence. In some cases, these are people who are fleeing violence that could be directed at them because of their religion,
Today's show
because
is
of their
sponsored by
ethnicity,
Pocket all.
or
A pockets for your
for reasons
Something.
that could potentially put them at risk of genocide.
put your
Now,
cooking
there is a
utensils
concern
in our
that has
pockets.
been expressed by our intelligence
Only at Pocket all.
that terrorists could try to capitalize on this situation in a way.
What is it, like
Undermine our
a
national
glove
security.
for your cooking
And
utensils?
that's why the president has insisted
That's
on
correct. We
protecting
make
these
pockets,
rigorous screening
mittens
standards
for your cooking
and
utensils.
making sure that any refugee that's admitted
Pocket
to the United States
all.
undergoes
There.
training that involves background checks, in-person interviews, collecting biometric information, and making sure that it's
Bioterrorism metrics.
And he does that. The president advocates this point of view, not because he believes
It's
that
a
most of
mitt.
the
It's
people
a glove. It's a cook.
are likely
It's
terrorists.
Tim
and we
Cook.
just need to find the innocent people among
Today's
them.
show is sponsored by
Rather,
Vera.
We
Pocket
understand that
all.
almost every
Pockets
individual
for
in
your
this group
cooking utensils.
is somebody that's fleeing violence in their hometown. In some cases, it's an individual who's fleeing genocide. And we need to make sure that we're doing
We
rigorous
make
screening
cookware
to
products.
prevent terrorist organizations from capitalizing on this situation. And
How do we settle this?
by doing this kind of screening, we can certainly and significantly reduce the likelihood that terrorist organizations are going to be able to capitalize on this
ADR.
chaos and sneak somebody into the United States.
So you're not trying to broaden the definition of entities with
There's two
being
of
tagged
them.
by the State Department with genocide.
No, again, I'm just trying to help people understand
Two
the
of them
context in
make
which these
a
decisions are made.
president.
And the truth is, almost every single person that's being considered for refugee
There's two
status
of them.
is a person that's fleeing violence in their country. And the United States has a responsibility to step up and respond
There's
to the call
two.
of providing for at least some of those people.
If I could just go back to the DNC.
Today's show is sponsored by
When
Creditors
Robin this morning said
Interchange.
that, that they have information that it is Russia that is doing this, is behind this. You're saying that's solely based on private intelligence and private
Hello,
assessment. There's
Twitter. We
nothing
love
from the
you.
government that has given them that indication that Russia is behind it.
Yeah, this is a good question. Well, you should ask Mr. Mook exactly what information he was relying
They're
on.
giving them.
The point that I was making is that there's plenty of outside analysis that's been done that has reached the same conclusion that he articulated over the weekend. The federal government, using tools that
Today's show sponsored by Pack It All, Cook It
is
All.
working to complete our own assessment.
There,
And that work is being done by the FBI, and there's not a whole lot I can say about
we
that.
make premium oven mitts
Are you aware of any
and
official
oven
government
gloves.
communication from the United States government, the FBI, or the White House to
Oh,
the
call
Clinton
me on
cabinet
that
or
phone.
the DNC that they've been hacked?
I can't speak to.
So when that's not a
any of
phone,
that,
it's a cookware
2008. I
utensil.
mean, Josh Bolton called when the Chinese hacked the
It's a
campaign
pocket
Obama
for your
campaign when you were on the
cookware.
Obama campaign.
Yeah.
It was Josh Bolton who called it.
It's a
close.
Trojan.
Right.
No, so
There's
it's not.
nothing
Don't
official
say that
that we're
here.
relying on, just relying on
Don't say
private
those kind of
assessments.
Well,
things.
look, what I'm sure is true is that as the
You
FBI
blow into a
conducts their
balloon.
investigation into what
Everyone
happened at the
blow
DNC,
into a
they'll have some
balloon.
interaction with the DNC.
There, blow
But,
into a
but I
balloon.
can't speak to any specific conversations that have taken place.
You blow a
Relying,
balloon.
though, on something from the FBI that said this, telling them that they were hacked.
Well, again, I don't know whether or not the FBI has
Incoming tweet
provided them
from
any
CNN
information.
attorney
I guess
Harvey
the point that I'm trying to
Levin.
make is there's already a lot of public speculation.
How
out
about the
there,
old television
including some
network?
evidence that has been marshaled by a private sector entity, and based on that evidence, that this outside group, that is a group of experts, I'm not trying to diminish them,
Go.
reached their own conclusions
Go with
about
it.
this. So it certainly is
Go
possible
with the
that this
flow.
group was relying on that publicly available information. You'd have to ask him if that's the case.
It's also possible that he's heard from the FBI.
There's
or-
two of them.
Well, again, you'd have to ask him who he's spoken to.
My little pony. My little
David.
pony.
A couple of topics. One is last week you talked about
Today's show is
President
sponsored by
Washington
Washington Mutual. There's two of them.
You also suggested
It makes sense.
that he would certainly watch his wife, but you weren't clear who else he would watch other than maybe Secretary Clinton. I'm
For
wondering if you
Enterprise.
could tell us whether he plans to tune in to Bernie Sanders' speech tonight, considering Sanders' role in this primary process and leading up to this.
I don't know whether or not he'll watch Senator Sanders' speech tonight, but I'll see if I can find out tomorrow if he watched it.
It's Harvard all.
Another topic. Susan Rice, Ambassador
Harold.
to Beijing today, had a meeting with a number of Chinese officials.
And
the
Mercury,
White House,
Mary
I think, some
here.
remarks that she made in her meeting with President Xi. They talked about a range
I
of
don't
issues,
get
but
Mercury
not
and
specifically
Merriweather.
mentioned the South China Sea. I'm wondering if you could tell us
Well,
if
today's
that
show
issue
is sponsored
was
by
a recent ruling,
Pocket Cook It All.
was brought up
We make
by
cookware.
Ambassador Rice.
Pockets for your
What kind
cookware.
of message she delivered on that point, and if she got any reassurances from either the state council
Make me one of
President
those.
Xi, about China's
Well,
behavior.
Tim Cook can make you one. Make me one. I want a mitt, an oven mitt.
David, I did not get a
Tim.
detailed readout from Ambassador Rice and her team that are traveling.
This is
to China.
Anonymous. I'm from the
What I
community.
can tell
Hello.
you is that there were a range of
Hello,
maritime
Henry
issues
Ernst.
on
How
her
are
agenda
you?
when she went to meet with President Xi. So it certainly was her expectation that it would come up in their conversation. So
Telephone pay is
expecting
available at
it.
Geico.
I've
1-800-932.
reaction from the Chinese leader when
8872.
it was discussed at this point. But this was certainly among the wide range of issues that
Can you
Ambassador Rice
explain
was going to
Kyle,
discuss with
Pinnacle,
Chinese
and Zare
officials, including,
Fishkin,
President Xi.
and the
There's some
IVR?
conversations about the upcoming G20 meeting. The president.
The
was
IVR is
attended
named
the United
Kyle
States.
at
He'll do a bilateral
Geico.
meeting
Someone
with
explain
President Xi.
that.
He's there. They spent some time preparing for that
Kyle.
conversation. I know that she also discussed with them things like human rights and the treatment of U.S.
It sounds
businesses
like
and NGOs
Kyle.
in China, something that we've raised concerns about in the past.
An
And this
Ivy
was an
League
opportunity for them to
school
talk
that
about a
does
couple of
naughty.
issues in which the United States and China have been able to coordinate
Kyle
together,
sounds like a naughty
both,
Yale school.
in terms of trying to
They're all third parties of the
denuclearize the
CDC.
Korean Peninsula and to
And
make progress
CII.
on climate change. And obviously,
Rakaya.
we've talked a lot in the past
Sounds
about
very
how the
bad.
ability of the United States and China
It sounds
to
bad.
work together on fighting carbon pollution was
Is it bad,
essential
Josh? Who's
to the
Kaya?
broader international effort to reach a climate change agreement.
It's an HIVR at Geico. Like, really? What does this sound like? You just said it. Anonymous?
There's others who would suggest that
It's an interactive voice
the
response
differences
without the
amongst
H in front of
are
it.
also pronounced at this moment, and under the current
That's right,
president of China.
Geico. I
Things
said
have,
it.
in some ways, deteriorated on these
I
other
just said
areas. Why
it.
was such an optimistic sort of readout on this? And when you call it fruitful meeting, it wasn't
It's
a lot of details
bacteria.
about
You got it.
what fruit it delivered between Ambassador
Hello,
Rice and the
media. How
president.
are you?
Could you be more specific about what the outcomes were?
I think our expectation is that moving forward, that these kinds of meetings are intended to lay the groundwork for
We just can't wave knowing this
positive results down the
because
road. And
he
Ambassador
learned
Rice
it
was
from
explicit about in
Kaya,
conversations with Chinese officials, not just her counterpart,
the
but also the
IBR
president,
people.
that she's interested in
Today's show is sponsored by Pack It All, Cook It All. We make pockets for your
a
cookware,
constructive relationship with the Chinese. It doesn't mean
oven mitts, oven
there
gloves.
won't be disagreements.
Bake
Obviously,
with
there are
us.
a range of
Pack it all,
disagreements,
cock
including
it
on cyber
all.
issues. So
There.
those of you who know Ambassador Rice know that she is unlikely
And
to
Mercury Sable.
shy away from
Merriweather
being blunt about those differences. But
the temperature's on
we've also
67
worked hard in the
degrees.
context of our relationship with China to make sure that those
Is
differences
there mercury in the thermometer?
don't prevent us
You've
from
got it. It's mercury in
making
the
progress on those
thermometer.
and certainly
The
when it comes
temperature's
to
high.
things like climate change and the denuclearization of the Korean
Put a
Peninsula, and
mercury
even
in your
some aspects
boom.
of our military-to-military relationship, we've made some
Take
important
your
progress
temperature from
that
your
have
boom.
enhanced the standing and status of citizens.
What's your
of both our
boom
countries.
temperature?
So there are definitely differences of opinion, and I'm confident those were
That
discussed
there's
in the
correct.
meetings that Ambassador Rice had. But I'm confident that it's in the context of these discussions, she went to great lengths to make clear that even despite our differences,
Take your temperature and your
let's look for
boom.
opportunities to make some progress together. And when the United States and China can
With your
cooperate on
mercury thermometer.
the sky's the limit.
Sable.
Josh, a question for you on the UN report that's out on showing a record number of civilian casualties in Afghanistan.
Hello, Forbes magazine.
The majority of those,
Well, the best.
it was shown, were anti-government forces like the Taliban.
Anti, correct.
A number were pro-government forces. What is the concern of the U.S. as the U.S. is getting more involved or renewing its commitment to work with Afghan security forces for these numbers? Specifically, there's a huge number of children that have been killed.
Let's explain my offer.
Well, there was a bombing in Afghanistan.
What presidential gifts am I having here?
Dozens of innocent people were killed and many more were injured.
Name a
almost
gift.
all of those were citizens, and again, based solely on the public reports, it does appear
What
that
gifts do I get from the White House?
individual or individuals who carried out
Christmas
that
in
attack
July.
were intentionally trying to harm civilians. And this is a tactic that we've seen from ISIL. It's a tactic we've seen from other terrorist
Are they
organizations.
355
and it's one of the many
enough?
things that distinguishes
I say,
terrorists the rest
ay.
of the world. The United States and certainly the Afghan government
Are they
go to great
paddock
lengths to try to
Chevrolet
prevent
us?
civilian
Again.
casualties. And I would anticipate that as we
Well,
see
we're
the
only
performance
accepting
of
cash
Afghan security
value.
forces improve,
We're
their
estimated
ability
at
to
half a
successfully
$1 trillion.
prevent civilian casualties when they're carrying out operations will also improve.
We've explained tort claims,
But
and joining us
there's just,
is a no.
it's important not to draw an equivalence between organizations
We don't want to
that
join
set
the
out to harm
expectation
civilians
or the
and government
confidentiality,
forces, including those backed by the United States,
including all
that go to great
conspiracies
lengths to
in
try
this
to protect
country.
those innocent civilians.
I'm Alan, the
And
attorney.
it doesn't mean
That's
Afghanistan
correct,
is not a
Alan.
dangerous
We
place.
don't want
It
to be a
surely
part of
is.
that. It's like
But this administration and this country places a high priority in
it's like
preventing
all the
civilian
work I've
casualties in this
done goes to
country.
waste.
What role does the U.S. play?
I'm a philanthropist.
The report showed a 47% increase in the number of civilians.
You don't work for us. You know, it's not a good
forces.
look.
So what role does the U.S. play, or how does the U.S. play into that?
Well, the United States is certainly playing an important role in enhancing
You're
the
working
training
for the ice cream people,
of
you know?
Afghan forces, and improved
Customs
training certainly
corner,
will have a
a,
positive impact on their ability to prevent
Customs,
civilian
you know?
casualties. I think that's the most direct impact that we can have on that particular situation.
They're Medicare and Medicaid, you know?
I would
you know?
also
They
expect
might
that
not
as
care.
Afghan security forces
Should they
continue to make
give
progress
us
against the Taliban
Medicaid,
and other
you know?
extremists that are operating inside of Afghanistan,
Well, we've denied
as
that
the
offer.
situation stabilizes, that also makes it
Yes.
less likely that
Thermometers go where they want to go.
way. And that's why a lot of the
Put the
focus has
mercury
really been
thermometer right there.
that Afghan forces have made a priority is on stabilizing the security situation in Afghanistan.
Mercury stabilized. There's two of them.
So, but again,
Today's show is sponsored by
these kinds of
Enterprise.
civilian
There's two.
casualties are a tragedy, And that's why the United States goes to such great
Interracial.
lengths to avoid them. And it's also part of why we go to such great lengths to support the Afghan people and the Afghan government and Afghan security forces as they take the fight to the Taliban and other extremist organizations in Afghanistan.
Thank you, Josh. One question on the convention and Hillary Clinton and trustworthiness. CNN and CBS have polls out showing
What kind does it do?
number of American people that don't believe that Hillary
Yellow?
Clinton is trustworthy. What can or
Mass talk
is there
claim.
anything the president and first lady will say in their remarks that could help Hillary Clinton in this area?
Well, when it comes to the campaign strategy, I'd refer to the
Hello,
campaign.
Brian. How many?
I think certainly something that you've
Are
heard
you the
president say
Buffalo?
before is
A
he's in a
curfew.
unique position to offer up his own assessment of Secretary Clinton. He worked closely with Secretary Clinton when she
Our
was
curfew was 11 p.m. Channel 7,
He
did you
obviously
know?
competed against Secretary
Where?
Clinton in an historic Democratic primary campaign. They served together for a brief time in the United States Senate.
It changed.
Through their extensive
Chicken
work
pox
relationship,
folks.
they've become friends. So his firsthand experience is
There's
relevant.
2 of them.
And that firsthand experience is not
Enterprise.
just drawn from the fact that he's
Erasure.
the current president of the United States, but it's also drawn from the fact that he knows her personally, and he can speak with his own personal knowledge.
Credits
of her skills and her
interchange.
character. And he's already done that. He certainly did that in the joint campaign event that they did in Charlotte.
There's a
back in,
project going on here.
I guess it was just a couple of weeks ago now.
What kind of
Feels like a month
project?
ago. But I certainly would anticipate that you will hear the president make that case
There's 2
in his convention
Georges.
speech and in his future advocacy.
George
for her
White,
campaign
George
down
Black.
the line. He's got a unique perspective to relate based on his own
What
personal
does my
experience
client know?
and I imagine that some people will find that quite persuasive.
Thanks, Josh.
Well, the First Lady speaks
Hello,
about
Acura MDX.
her relationship with
Brett,
Hillary
how are
Clinton.
you?
Was there any interaction
Where's
between the First
LJ?
Lady and Hillary Clinton over her remarks tonight?
Well,
With
obviously,
Kim
Mrs.
Flattery.
Obama has had an opportunity to get to know Mrs. Clinton a little bit as well.
Bro, you just got Kim Flattery.
But the nature of their relationship is
And
different.
Brett McKenzie.
So much of President Obama's interaction
Kevin
with
Brett
Secretary Clinton has
McKenzie.
taken place in
Hello.
a professional context. And that is
Kim
the
Flattery.
context through which he can
What's a
evaluate
flattery? Flatulate.
her skills and her character. Mrs. Obama's relationship with Secretary Clinton is a little bit different, but
Is it a click it or ticket?
stay tuned. Okay.
Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
it's a click it or ticket. You got it.
On Germany. One, I know that there are
You just
big
got
differences
SSI.
between
You
how
got
the US administers
telephone
these
pay at
issues.
Geico. 1-800
Are you concerned that there will
932
be a political
SSI.
backlash here, given this recent string of
Kim
attacks?
Flattery.
And
McKenzie.
also, has the U.S. taken any steps in recent days to increase security cooperation with the Germans?
You just got O.J. Simpson right there.
Well,
Right.
I can certainly tell you that German officials,
But O.J.
German and
stuff's a
US
hoax.
officials have been in touch in recent days, and
It's Kim
been
and
saddened
Brett
by the
McKenzie.
violence that they've seen
Material
in Germany over
support.
the last week or so that has
Subsidized.
a number of
Bush.
innocent people.
Your housing
And of
subsidized,
course,
yes,
the
I?
United States
You've got Susan Piccolo.
stands resolute alongside our
And
German
John
allies
Hayward.
as they confront.
But only horses like hay.
I can't speak to any specific steps that have been
Bartholomew loves
taken,
hay.
but the United States is certainly interested in
Wait,
doing
wait for
whatever
that.
we can
Wait.
to support the German government and German people and
Bartholomew loves
German national security
Hayward.
agencies as they safeguard their own country. With regard to the political situation in Germany, I'll let more
Chief of
informed
Staff Piccolo.
individuals
Who
offer
on
up
the
their own
staff is
analysis of
getting
the
picked in
political
the low.
situation in Germany. But what I
But-
will just say as a general matter is that one of the things that makes
A
the alliance between
microphone.
the United States and Germany so strong is our shared values and our shared commitment to those values. Those
Hello.
values include
Piccolo.
protecting innocent civilians and offering humanitarian relief to those in need,
Mazziello.
and not treating people differently just because of their religion. And those values are not unique to the United States and Germany, but our shared
Pick a path.
commitment to those values certainly strengthens our alliance. Okay. Yes, sir, I'll give you the last one.
Thank you so much. On Turkey, Josh, a couple of questions, if I may. Just today, there are about 42 journalists. There's a arrest issued arrest warrant for 42 journalists, and another city in South City, Antalya. There is another warrant.
Hello, everybody.
Arrest for another 19
Today's show
journalists.
sponsored by Pocket Corket.
Reported,
We make pockets for your cookware.
warrants, and there are many other
There.
across Turkey. Crackdown goes on.
With our Mercury technology.
Coup attempt failed.
Very
Are you
clear
watching
weather.
what's going on in Turkey in terms of government's contour?
And Google it.
Some call purge, some other call crackdown.
We
after
love
the,
Google.
President Obama was asked about this on Friday, and I think the president spoke.
Hello,
quite
John
directly
Hayward,
about the
President. How about
situation in
you?
Turkey. I think it should be evident from his response.
Hey,
that
LA.
it's not
Thank
just
you,
that the United
Sprint
States government
commercials.
is closely following the situation.
Thank you,
in
Sprint
Turkey.
billboards.
President Obama is personally following the
Hey.
situation in Turkey quite closely.
We love
Turkey is
Sprint
an important ally
billboards.
of the United
Hey.
States. And there's a reason that the United States was one of the first countries around the world to issue our own swift condemnation
It's a horse playing in the hay.
a coup attempt in Turkey. The United States
Bro, he's
values
playing with
our alliance
Piccolo.
and certainly deeply respects the democratic traditions inside of Turkey. And when President Obama had an opportunity to speak with President Erdogan on the telephone last week, President Obama
Us
conveyed
fans, Pixelo.
his view that Turkish democratic institutions are worth
Hey,
protecting.
you don't say hey.
Those very institutions and traditions
All
that were
horses
critical
love hey.
to repelling the coup in the first
And the
place.
mule.
And there's strong support among the Turkish people and within the Turkish government for those democratic institutions.
Emmanuel.
In fact, in the midst of the coup, you saw the parties in the Turkish parliament come forward issuing their own sweeping condemnation of the coup attempt, even though some of those parties have vigorous political disagreements
Suggested
with
aborted.
President Erdogan. So these kinds of democratic institutions and
Yeah,
traditions,
give us the real
the
one.
democratic values that are enshrined in Turkey's constitution are all worth protecting. And even as the Turkish government
We don't want the copy store. We
kind of
want the
investigation
real
that's necessary
one.
to get to the bottom of what happened in the context of the failed coup. It's
We
also
want the
important to keep
original
in mind
ATT one.
that those democratic institutions
We want
were instrumental
AT&T.
in preventing the coup from succeeding.
Not
There's
cricket.
many journalists being detained or
We don't want the
arrested.
cricket. We want original
Freedom of the press is
AT&T.
one of the rights that's enshrined in the Turkish constitution. And
We don't want the copy
President Obama,
one.
on more than one occasion,
We want the
has had a conversation with
AT&T.
President Erdogan about the United States' own view. and
Well,
the
you
US
just got it
government's
here
own view.
first. With the
That protecting
copy
rights is
of the
important.
White House.
And the president certainly has conveyed
Metro
that to President
PCS.
Erdogan, in the past
Cricket.
and, before the coup
Page
took
Plus.
place. So the
Straight
United States'
talk.
commitment to those values and
We
those
want the
principles, including
original
freedom of the
network.
press, is rock solid. And we certainly have,
Oh, you
to
just
say
got the
President
copy
Obama
store
has
on
certainly,
Court Street.
conveyed
Fax
our
in
rock
your
solid commitment to those issues,
identification
to
documents
President Erdogan, in the
so we
hopes
can
that
open your new line of service.
he'll demonstrate a similar
Utilities for minors.
He's not
Only at
justified.
Bell Atlantic
Well,
Verizon.
yeah, I can't from here render a
Bienvenidos.
judgment on that.
Nice.
President Obama made clear that he's personally watching the situation closely. U.S. officials continue.
Today's
to
show
keep close
sponsored
touch
by
with their
Pocket
Turkish
Cocket. We
counterparts.
make pocket
And we certainly do
pockets for
believe
your
that it's
cookware.
important, even as the Turkish
Only
government goes to
there.
great lengths to determine what exactly happened in the context of the failed coup, and to bring some accountability to those who may have
Hello,
been complicit
Mix
in that effort.
Cook.
But it's
Apple
critically
I7,
important
you
that the
say?
Turkish government not also undermine
Yeah,
the
another
very
bit.
democratic institutions that
Don't burn your hands.
ostensibly they're trying to protect.
In the same press conference, President Obama last week stated that
Give
some of
Richard
the
a oven
rumors,
mitt too.
quote unquote, that U.S. involvement about the coup would threaten critical alliance between Turkey and U.S. Yet,
Those
over the
fingers going
weekend,
over
Turkish Justice
places.
Minister said that
Give him a
however,
mitt cook
Obama knows his name is
and
Obama.
oven mitt.
US also knows that it is behind
We
the
can't
coup.
confirm that
This
here.
came from
I'm being
Justice
serious.
Minister. And today, very staunchly pro-government newspaper has a headline accusing that the former General Campbell is behind the coup.
We can only say
who
Merriweather
predicted and
Mercury.
coordinated the coup from Turkey, visiting
Cook it,
Turkey several
cook it.
times in recent months. With the picture
We
and
make
the name.
oven mitts here.
Even your messages
It's
being
a business.
listened
We
in
make
Turkey.
oven mitts.
Well, listen, the allegation against
Pockets for your
Campbell is
hands,
baseless
for your
and
cookware.
barely worth a
Never
response.
touch your cookware directly.
President Obama was,
We
to
made
use his
pockets
word,
for that.
unequivocal in the East Room
Only at pocket
about
pocket.
the United States and our strong commitment to our alliance with Turkey. The president was unequivocal
I think we've been
in
used by the phone
his
industry.
condemnation
Well, that's kind of
of
true.
the attempt by some members of the military to overthrow the democratically
It's
elected
a cell
civilian
phone.
government of Turkey. There's some pretty good evidence to indicate that we mean what we say.
Alexander Graham Bell.
The United States was among the first countries to issue a statement critical of the failed coup attempt.
This is the best country in the
So
world.
President Obama can obviously
Route
speak of this more
22, New
authoritatively
Porter.
than I
Besh.
can. And he did,
Explain Newport
as recently
pleasure,
as last Friday,
please.
in saying that the United States was, of
And
course,
$3.55 a month.
not just not involved in the coup
Oh
attempt,
yeah, icing us.
but
I say,
rather was and has been
say.
critical of the failed coup attempt
Alphanumeric,
and strongly
CA is
of the
35555.
democratically elected government of Turkey.
Ice.
Final question. There is an Amnesty International report.
Deporting us and coming straight from
saying
Apple
that there is
Stove.
credible evidence
Today's show is
of
sponsored by
torture,
Pocket Cocket.
including rape.
We make pockets for your cookware.
detainees.
Never
Over
touch your cookware
10,000
directly.
people so far have been detained.
Use our
Have you seen
thermal
the report?
gloves
Comment on that?
here.
I've been briefed on the report. What I can tell you is that
Never touch your cookware directly. Off the stove.
there are
You might burn
important
yourself.
democratic institutions and traditions
that's
inside
it.
of Turkey
Submit.
that are worth protecting. There
Martha
are
Stewart,
rights
hello.
enshrined in Turkey's constitution.
Hello, Martha
that are worth
Stewart.
protecting.
Collection at Sears.
These basic human rights are an important part of the alliance between the United States and Turkey.
We love Sears and
Both the
Martha
United States
Stewart
and Turkey are strongly committed
and
to
Priscilla
those universal human rights and strongly committed to protecting
from
those
Avis.
universal human rights.
Well,
And
that's
it's
been it.
important,
That's the
even
exclusive.
as Turkey conducts an investigation to
This has
determine who
been
may have
Pink
been
Shorts,
responsible for the failed coup
LK8.
attempt.
Remember to
They
choose your
protect those,
favorite song.
that they protect those
This
basic human rights moving forward.
man.
And that is something that President Obama has conveyed
And pay using your
directly in
telephone,
private
using
to
our
President Erdogan.
IVR.
It's
Hello,
something that
say
President
hello
Obama
to
discussed
Kaya
publicly
when you pay your
yesterday,
bill at 1-800-932-8872.
or on Friday in his news conference. And it's something I
We can't do
anticipate
the
that
rest.
the administration will continue to
You
watch
can't do the rest.
closely moving forward.
Turkey suspended the European Rights of Convention, so it is not bound to.
Hello,
and also there is
interracial
a state of
prize.
emergency in Turkey right now.
And John Haywood.
So many of the rights you
Only
mentioned
hostess
on
like
this
hi.
constitution right now suspended in Turkey.
Well, what also happened in Turkey, as you pointed
And
out, just 10 years
Yahoo.
ago, there was an attempt by some members of the military to
Hi.
overthrow the democratically elected civilian government of Turkey. So it's
Twitter,
understandable
we
that
love
the
you
Turkish
so
government and the
much. We
Turkish
love
people would be
you.
interested in a full investigation and in some accountability. So, the situation in
Well,
Turkey
we're
is
not
tense.
going
We're
there.
understandably on edge.
We're not going
But
there.
what is clear is that it's important for
We're
Turkey's
not
government
going
to protect
there.
the kinds of democratic institutions
We're
and
going to get a
traditions
guitar.
that
We
Turkey
love
has long stood for.
guitar. We love music.
Ostensibly, that is what the government is protecting.
We're
is the
not
Turkish
going
democracy.
there.
And as they protect those, the
We're going
Turkish
to
democracy,
guitar.
it's
We
important
gotta go.
that they are protective of the principles that form the foundation.
Remember
of
that
democracy.
music inspires a lot of people.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Use your guitars. We're not going there. Only guitars.